Hello everyone and welcome back to another very exciting chess game. So this time we have Paul Morphy with the black pieces and his opponent was Augustus Mongredien, one of the leading British chess masters at the time. This chess game was played in 1863 in Paris, France. So Paul Morphy and Mongredien played a chess match in 1859 and Mongredien lost that match very badly, 7-0. So I heard that in the database that Mongredien made a serious preparation against Morphy for this chess game with studying Paul Morphy's chess games. So let's see what happened in this chess game after his preparations against Paul Morphy. So because in this chess game Paul Morphy had the black pieces, I want to check out this chess game from the perspective of Paul Morphy. So Mongredien starts the game with e4, e5, f4, and we have King's Gambit, one of the most popular openings from 1850s and also in 1860s in the romantic era of chess. So e takes on f4, bishop to c3, developing the bishop, and the King's Gambit was accepted. And only for the records, when Paul Morphy was playing against the King's Gambit, he most of the time or always accepted the King's Gambit. So d5 by Morphy, pushing the pawn with developing his pieces. That was his idea. He wants to activate his pieces. So e takes on d5, and if bishop takes on d5, then knight to f6. And in the real chess game, Mongredien decided to capture with the pawn, but we still have knight to f6 by Morphy with a threat, so threatening to take the pawn, developing the knight, and simply knight takes on d5 and white castled. Bishop to e6, developing and blocking the e file. Bishop takes on d5, bishop takes on d5. So d4, also Mongredien wants to develop his pieces with pushing the pawn. Knight to c6, bishop takes on f4, bishop to e7, and Morphy wants to castle. So developing the knight and Morphy castled. c4, and it looks like this is a good move, and it also looks like a very logical move, so grabbing some space in the center and potentially squeezing black is white's idea. But now Morphy played, on the surface it looks nothing, it looks like a normal move, but Morphy played a very accurate move. Of course, if bishop retreats, then pushing the pawn is going to fork the pieces, but Morphy played bishop takes on f3, a counter-attack, so knight takes on f3 and then bishop to f6, and this pawn is a weakness, so d5 is forced. Although white is defending the target on d4, now he created another weakness on b2. So with pushing the pawn, now the b pawn is another target. So Morphy is defending the knight, knight to e7, and then bishop to e5 and knight to f5 by Morphy. So knight to e3, forking is Morphy's idea. He is looking at e3. So queen to d3 and then g6, defending the strongly placed knight, exchanging the bishops. But actually, in this position, Mongredien is giving up the bishop little too quickly without any resistance. Queen to c3 should have been considered, and this would be a better move. So after bishop takes on f6, so giving the initiative to black way too quickly. So still targeting the b pawn, so queen to b3. And Morphy could have played queen to b6 check and exchanging the queens, and still black is going to have slight advantage, but Morphy played a better move. He played rook from f to e8, not defending the b pawn, but activating the rook and controlling the open file for a cost of a pawn. If he wanted, he could have even traded the queens with queen to b6, as I said, and then fighting for the open file. But what happens if accepting the pawn sacrifice, then black can play rook from a to b8. Probably this was Paul Morphy's idea. So queen takes on c7 and rook takes on b2. Now black is a pawn down, but black has the activity. Black is more active with this annoying looking infiltration on the second rank. So okay, fighting for the open file, and then knight to d4, forcing to exchange the knights, trading the knights, and sending the king into the corner. A very logical play by Paul Morphy, because this was his idea. This is forced, rook takes, and then infiltrating with the queen, queen to d2, exclamation point. So Morphy's moves are very accurate. But we can see that Mongredien is playing a little bit more resisting, a little bit more strong against Paul Morphy. So he at least simplified the game, but this is giving black an advantage. We have rook to f1, and this is another good move. But if queen to c3, even this move is not going to do much for white, because now black can exchange the queens, and then b6, a very accurate move. Rook to e7 is not going to do much. Now black can defend the c pawn with the rook, and then later black is going to play king to f8, sending the rook back, and you can see that white has very bad pawn structure, and black has the advantage in this rook pawn endgame. Because of this very bad looking pawn structure, it looks ugly to say the least. So Paul Morphy, a Capablanca like play by Paul Morphy. We have seen positions like this many times in Capablanca's chess games. So let's take it back again. This was knight to d4 was a very accurate move, and then exchanging the rooks and infiltrating on d2, so black has the upper hand, but this is giving up the file very quickly. Simply Morphy controls the file, rook to e8, so he wants to infiltrate with the rook as well, and then it's just game over. So queen to f3, a prophylactic move, f5, and defending the f-pawn, and now rook to e2 is next, and basically white can't do much about it. So queen to d1, and also the b-pawn was under attack, but Morphy played rook to e2, big advantage for black. And after this move, Augustus Mongredien resigned yet once again against Paul Morphy. Both pawns is under attack. Morphy has managed to invade the second rank. Black has big advantage. So the possible continuation, you can see that the g and the b pawn is under attack. So what else? Queen takes, rook takes, rook to b1, defending the b pawn, but now rook to c2 is the key winning move. So b3 is a must, but then this time the a pawn is falling. Now black is a pawn up. Engine says this is minus 1.50 points advantage for black. It's understandable that Mongredien didn't want to fight this losing battle, as he probably felt hopeless in this position, in this possible continuation. So, okay, I hope you have enjoyed watching this chess game, and I hope to see you next time with more interactive chess games. Do take care, stay safe, and bye-bye.